Hi there, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. My name is Vicki Newman, and I'm an assistant showbiz editor here at The Mirror. And once again today, I'm hoping she's going to appear any moment now. There she is. I'm joined today by BJ Courville, who is a first-year attorney at a law firm in New York. But Britney's fans are going to know you more as that surprise witness, aren't they? And we've spoken before, BJ, and I recommend to everybody, Britney fans out there, if you haven't watched our first interview with BJ, watch it after this. It's so informative, really, really interesting, and it'll tell you everything you need to know about the conservatorship that Britney is currently under and fighting. Last time we spoke, Britney was just about to give her testimony for the first time ever. So much has happened since then. So we're going to talk all about that today. If anybody's watching has got any questions for BJ, drop them in the comments and we'll pass them along. But BJ, how have you been since the last time we spoke?
I have been great, and I feel, a little vindicated and validated since the last time we spoke. I actually got the opportunity to go into the courtroom where Britney gave her testimony, this most recent hearing, and I heard it sort of as it was happening. So I would say it's been pretty surreal, and things have been happening really quickly, but it's great to see all of the progress finally being made on the case.
Yeah, I mean, what was that like to actually be there and hear it firsthand? Because I think, with everything that's come out since, there might still be people out there, who are saying, oh, what's Britney got to moan about? She's rich, she's famous. But, you listen to what she said, it's truly harrowing. And it's clear that she's not had the life that she's wanted at all, isn't it?
That's right. And to be fair, I used to be kind of one of those people who, years ago, I wouldn't have spent a lot of time thinking about Britney Spears' human rights because I would assume she's rich and she's famous and she's powerful and she has resources. And so why should I spend my time as an ordinary person just worrying about her? But we really have heard, sort of from her directly now twice that it isn't really just about money, which is my, my research focuses a lot on the money, the legal aspect, and why I believe this conservatorship was started in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
But it isn't just about money. You can see that Britney has, detailed having some pretty horrendous, I won't repeat all of the things here just because I know it's, a mixed audience here, but if you're interested in if you've somehow missed what Britney has complained about, I mean, we're talking about medical decisions that legally she was supposed to retain the right to make. She hasn't been able to make them. She has had her children held over her and had her children kind of used as a sort of bargaining chip. And the team has not been shy about doing that. They have actually put it in court documents and put it in depositions that they worked with Kevin Federline to use Britney's children to put them over her head, to force her to work and force her to take certain actions. And so when you really look at what's been going on, there's really no other way to describe it other than extortion and, frankly, trafficking by holding things over her head in order to force her to work and financially enrich the team around her.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, some of the things that she has said, the main thing to come out of it is that she's, very publicly spoken against her father, Jamie, and actually said that she wants him to go to jail for what he's done to her and the way he's treated her. She said that she was forced onto contraception, and that all she wants is to marry a boyfriend and have kids with him. She's compared herself to a sex trafficking victim being made to work against her will. She's claimed that she was put on lithium against her will and forced to perform when she didn't want to. I mean,
She said she worked with 102-degree fever. And one of the things I heard in the courtroom that I found particularly enraging was, the judge was trying to put on the calendar another date for them to come back and talk about some of the still outstanding issues. On last Wednesday, there were 15 different issues to focus on. And the judge was trying to put, some of those other issues on a calendar date later. And, you know, one of the lawyers said that this particular day wouldn't work for her because it was a religious holiday, which I'm sympathetic to. I don't think you should have to work on religious holidays if you practice the religion. But, you know, I just remembered Britney's testimony and her saying she had to work whenever she had 102-degree fever. She has to work, 10 hours a day at these rehabs or else she can't see her children or her boyfriend. And so it kind of just did strike me as odd that all the attorneys on this case who are being paid hundreds, if not thousands of dollars per hour by Britney against her will and against her consent, they get to say, oh, well, that's a religious holiday for me. But Britney is, even when her health is in danger, she's forced to work. And for those reasons, I mean, I can't blame her for comparing her situation to sex trafficking because her reproductive rights are being controlled illegally. If you would take her for her word, which I do, I don't believe that Britney has any reason to lie about something like this because it would be something pretty easily provable. And so, her reproductive rights are being controlled, frankly, by her father. And, at this point, she's 39 years old. She'll be 40 this year. And this never should have happened, but for certain, it should be over right now. I don't think it should drag out any longer.
Yeah, I mean, obviously on the flip side of that, our father Jamie has said that he's so sorry to see his daughter in so much pain, and that he's working to kind of to prove that he hasn't done these things, and so it's obviously still very much he says she says. But the big difference now is that we're hearing this directly from Britney, something that we've never had before. I mean,
Yes.
What does that, how does that change things, do you think?
Well, I think that, a lot of lawyers would tell you that cases are decided in the court of law, not the court of public opinion. And frankly, technically that's true. But I do believe it will change the court of public opinion. I do believe that people, like you mentioned, Vicki, it's he said, she said right now. It's Jamie versus Britney. And frankly, Britney has had her reputation dragged through all kinds of things. And so it is up to people to decide who they want to believe. What I will say is a lot of people heard Britney's testimony from her own mouth and they believe it, including myself. We have seen over the years, different people say, I was talking to Britney and all of a sudden I couldn't, or I tried to get her number and her bodyguard said I couldn't have it and stuff like that. And so if you take all of those things together, you start to realize that it probably is more likely Britney is telling the truth than Jamie. That being said, it actually doesn't matter if he said or if she said. The legal basis for a conservatorship is that a person cannot take care of themselves, cannot take care of their affairs, or they're really susceptible to undue influence. Well, if that's the legal basis, you don't have to be a psychologist to see that Britney is capable of taking care of herself because she said it herself. I'm not only taking care of myself, I'm housing, feeding, and roofing hundreds, if not thousands of people on tour. Clearly, I am able to work and take care of myself if you look at the hundreds of millions of dollars that I've made over the last 13 years. And so for Britney to remain in a conservatorship, no matter if everything she said in her testimony was a lie, to me, that shows that she's able to lie because she understands legally if she was going through all of these things, she would be able to get out of it. And so even if she's lying, that's something that they can settle in civil court. But it is not the case that Britney is unable to take care of herself because we've seen her take care of not only herself, but in fact, an empire for the last decade and a half.
Yeah. I mean, Becca Sharp saying, that she thinks that at the time it was the right thing to do. I mean, obviously, as we know, Britney's conservatorship started after she suffered, a very public meltdown in 2008. But she thinks that now it's not, it shouldn't still be going on. I mean, do you think that it was right at the time to protect Britney?
No, I don't. I think that, again, legally, you have to be unable to provide for yourself. And just a couple of weeks after Britney was, said to have dementia, she was put on a show called How I Met Your Mother, and she was memorizing a script for that show. If you were, and dementia in and of itself is not even a strong enough diagnosis to get a conservatorship. You have to be unable to take care of yourself. And I would say to Becca, there are actually two types of conservatorships in California. There's the one that Britney's in called a probate conservatorship, and it is incredibly restrictive. there's also a conservatorship for people who have mental health problems. And I strongly maintain Britney never qualified for either conservatorship. But if she qualified for a conservatorship because she was having a meltdown, as people have now come to like to call it, to me that implies a mental health condition, which should have fallen under a much lower restrictive conservatorship called an LPS conservatorship. And so if you're a member of the camp who believes that Britney needed some type of psychological intervention at the time that she was having, frankly, depression, postpartum depression, probably tremendous anxiety from being stalked, harassed, and followed 24/7 by hundreds of men aggressively screaming at her. I believe that most people would have some type of emotional or mental response to that. I certainly would have. And so there were other less restrictive ways for Britney's situation to have been addressed that did not involve taking away her civil rights, her constitutional rights, and her civil liberties. And so I strongly maintain that it never should have happened.
Yeah. I mean, another thing that has notably changed recently, we need to talk about Britney's social media. I mean, for a long time now, people have believed that she was sort of sending cryptic messages through her posts. And now, since she's stood up in court and spoken publicly, she's really, really like upped it on social media, hasn't she? I mean, there's this one here where she's celebrating that she was finally allowed to choose her own legal representative. And I mean, that to me seems like something she should have been able to do anyway.
Well, Vicki, I would agree with you. I believe that the fact that Britney was denied a lawyer of her choice ever in any time in these proceedings was unconstitutional based on the United States and the state of California's constitutions. So I agree with you wholeheartedly. She should always have been able to hire her own lawyer. And the only thing that has changed since 2008 to 2021, when she was able to do that, was the public's opinion and the public attention. And so I really wanted to drive that home. Now, a lot of fans have for a long time talked about Britney's Instagram, talked about these messages that seem to be being sent by her. I am here, as a lawyer, but I would be remiss not to mention that some fans still believe that this is not Britney posting on her social media. But I do believe these messages, since the court, hearing, are coming from Britney. I do believe she's happy she was able to finally exercise her constitutional rights. I will say this. Things have happened since the last time that you and I spoke in my personal life and in my professional life, where members, or at least one member of the conservatorship team, have actually made attempts to silence certain parts of my personal activism. And the way that they did that was so creative, such that it made me have to start sending a couple different types of cryptic messages because, they put my livelihood at stake. And when that happened to me, it made me realize that it is actually not that far-fetched that Britney may be having to hide away little messages for her most devoted fans, because it does seem to be the case, if Britney were to be taken for her word, that she has been being silenced, and she's been maybe perhaps trying to figure out creative ways to communicate with people. So I'm not saying that is the case or that has been happening, but I am saying it wouldn't be a surprise for me to find that out later. I personally think that Britney probably is now able to at least submit posts to her social media team and submit captions that are being posted. And I do believe strongly that that is a direct result of her being able to choose a lawyer of her own.
Yeah. Well, I'm very sorry to hear that happened to you. That is awful. I think I totally agree with what you're saying, that, at the end of the day, we don't know for sure, and we've really got no way of knowing whether this is Britney herself on her phone, typing out her posts, or, like you say, if it's been passed on to somebody else and maybe rewritten or whatever. We don't know. The interesting thing about this post where she's riding the horse is that she's used the hashtag Free Britney for the first time, and then the comment there, the internet is about to explode, that's her boyfriend Sam. So, to me, this does sort of scream authenticity, but I could be being duped.
And people, and people have said too, I believe it is Britney and Sam as well. I do think that personally. Of
Mhm.
course, I wasn't sitting in the room when they pressed post. But I think that even if that isn't Britney, the fact that that account is now has changed its tune, as it were, so much from just a few months ago, whenever they had Britney come on there and say, I'm the happiest I've ever been in my life.
Yeah.
I'm working on all these things and I'm so, feeling good and all of that. And it's like, that can't be true if she's now saying free Britney. And so there is an inconsistency in messaging in this account, which has also, added to the variables that make me believe this is Britney. And I remember, I actually I'm doing pretty much daily reactions to these posts on YouTube and Instagram. I'm kind of, just yesterday, Britney was on Sam Asghari's Instagram singing, and that post has since been deleted. And so it does seem like Britney is getting a little more adventurous and a little more sort of courageous with her social media use. And I can only encourage that. And I'm optimistic and excited about that, because she always should have been able to say her part. She said in court, it's not fair. It's infuriating to her that all of her family and everyone that always has worked with her and everything can go and do these interviews. And she said, and it makes me feel and look so stupid. And I can't even talk for myself. So I really do hope that this is Britney able to speak for herself at this point.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, there is obviously interesting, another one of our posts where she's said that she's not going to perform again until she's out from underneath her father's control. And Ellie is asking, is our dad still able to control her? Is he still, while this is ongoing, is he on hold, or is he still in the position he's always been in?
That's a great question, Ellie. So what we're dealing with here are, the legal realities and the actual real realities. And so legally, Jamie Spears is still sort of residually the conservator of Britney's person. He's never officially resigned. And there's another conservator in there right now temporarily called Jody Montgomery. But legally speaking, Jamie still has a little bit of authority. And then he is also, legally speaking, still the complete sole conservator of Britney's estate, meaning her money. And Jamie Lynn Spears is the sole trustee of Britney's, one of her largest trusts. And so Jamie also, what you have to remember, Ellie, is he would have been involved in hiring all of the existing staff, meaning bodyguards, security teams, managers, whether it be a business manager, an agent, daily manager, right? He would have been involved most likely in choosing the medical teams and the medical facilities that Britney would have gone to. And so even if Jamie is removed immediately, we still do all have all of these employees, frankly, that in some ways probably do have some loyalty to him. So we're not going to be out of the woods just yet, as soon as the judge sort of bangs the gavel and says, Jamie is no longer the conservator of the estate or the person, because we do still have institutionalized for the last 13 years all of these people who are frankly handlers and reporters, back to Jamie of what Britney is doing. We have recently found court documents that indicate that Jamie has spyware, or has in the past had spyware installed on Britney's phone that screen records everything she does, every search, every text message. It would record the voice audio of anything that she said into the phone. This is her phone. So think about how much you use your phone, how much information somebody may be able to gather. Now, then you also put together with the fact that Britney didn't even have notice of that hearing whenever that happened. So it's unclear that Britney even knows that that type of stuff was installed on her phone. And so when you really get into the level of control that Jamie has exercised over Britney's person and her money over the last 13 years, you really just, you have to come to the realization that there's no way this ever was in her best interest.
And I mean, can Britney say and follow through on, I'm not going to perform again until the conservatorship is over? Can't you do that?
She can do that. You can't force a conservatee to do anything. Like Britney mentioned in her speech, or, in her testimony, her sister called it a speech, which I thought was ridiculous. In her testimony in court, she said, I shouldn't be being forced to work or forced to do anything. So again, legally, no, she can't be forced to do anything as far as working. She can be forced to go to a hospital if it's necessary or something like that. But in reality, her children have been held against her. And so she even said that, like they said, if you do this tour, you'll be able to get out of the conservatorship if you do well. Or if you, do this Instagram post, you'll be able to see your kids. And if you don't work at this facility, then you're not going to see your kids. So Britney can say she doesn't want to work, but we have no idea what her father and team have held over her or what the consequences really have been. I mean, she said the reason that she was held against her will in a psychiatric institution for months without anyone knowing was because she refused to do a certain type of dance move at her tour. So she refused to do a dance move and they locked her up. And then frankly, they incarcerated her in a medical facility. So can she refuse to work? Sure. But we really don't know the gravity of the consequences if she were to do something like that.
Yeah. And that obviously isn't the only thing that Britney has sort of alluded to on her social media. She's also sort of alluded to the fact that obviously there's trouble between her and her sister. And I think she has said that she doesn't feel like her sister Jamie Lynn protected her enough. She said the same about her mother. And there's been a lot of backlash from Britney's fans towards Jamie Lynn, which obviously isn't nice, to do it, to pile on and things like that. But I mean, what do you think this says about what's happening with Britney and these posts?
So with Jamie Lynn and with Lynn, the mom and the sister, I really have held out, just personally, some hope, that they really had her best interest at heart. And you had the first testimony Britney gave on June 23rd, where she said she wanted to sue her family and that the whole family did nothing to help her. So I kind of was like, oh man, she may be talking about Jamie Lynn there. Then she said again in her testimony on July 14th, I was in this facility. I was locked up against my will, and my family was at my beach house in Destin. And then fans, of course, because they know, came up with pictures that showed Jamie Lynn with her children, in fact, in Destin around the time Britney was in the facility. And after I saw that, I just knew that probably there's no redemption for Jamie Lynn. And I believe Britney, because I believe, survivors of this, type of abuse. I have no reason not to believe her. And so it does seem, especially based on the social media posts from yesterday, that Britney is certainly not happy at the moment with how Jamie Lynn, her sister, has handled this situation and how she has not supported her. Jamie Lynn has come out with these different sources or whatever to different little media outlets and saying, Jamie Lynn wants to support her sister in private. You don't send a source to Us Weekly to tell people you're supporting someone, publicly. You're sending someone to say it publicly to the public that you're supporting someone.
Yeah.
Privately. It just doesn't add up to me. And so I believe Britney is probably not happy with Jamie's lack of support. Now, listen, Jamie Lynn Spears has been through a lot herself. Mm-hmm. And a lot of the same people who abused Britney would have probably abused Jamie Lynn Spears. But at this time, I think Britney was expecting a little more loyalty and support, and I don't think she's getting it from Jamie Lynn. It might be too little, too late.
I mean, this post here, people do believe is in response to Jamie Lynn. It's because of the PS red, isn't it? And Jamie had earlier posted a picture of herself wearing red, and you said the caption was different. It's changed now to the peace sign and the love heart, but it said something else before, didn't it?
So yesterday, this was posted and by Jamie Lynn Spears. My cat's here. So what it had said was something along the lines of, may the peace of the Lord be with you, or may the peace of the Lord be with you and your spirit. Something about the peace of the Lord. And it was like, may the peace of the Lord be with you. And then you get Britney's post where she's dancing to a song called Bad Guy, which is very strategically cut to say that the person is a criminal and cynical. And it says, may the Lord wrap your mean bleep up enjoy today. And then she says, P.S. red. And of course, we did see that Jamie Lynn was wearing a red suit yesterday. But I do believe that the May the Lord rap and May the Lord peace of the Lord be with you was a much more direct response to Jamie Lynn, than just the red.
Yeah. I mean, Jamie Lynn has turned comments off on a lovely cat, by the way. Jamie Lynn's turned comments off on her Instagram because, the abuse got so much, and it's never acceptable, obviously, to hurl abuse at somebody online, but and obviously Jamie Lynn is young, she's Britney's baby sister, but you kind of, in a way, like, you can kind of understand that the fans are so upset about it.
Well, and I think what's important, I think what's important to just remember here is Britney literally said she can't think of any reason why her team was doing this to her, drugging her and leaving her in these facilities by herself for so long. She said she cannot think of any reason other than her team was trying to kill her. So what we're dealing with here is a life or death situation. And people being, snotty on the internet is not a death threat. Okay. And so I think, I'm going to lay some clear boundaries. No one should be going after anyone's children. That's unacceptable. And that is how we got in the situation we're in right now. Adults need to leave children out of things, period. There's no excuse for that. That being said, Vivian Lee Thoreen, who's Jamie Spears' lawyer, has invoiced $500,000 alone to media relations and social media matters. So I know that this is going to sound like a conspiracy theory to some people, but hear me out. Jamie's lawyer has said in court documents that she has spent hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of time hiring PR experts, hiring teams to address the social media movement of Free Britney. And in the court documents, they say, they're saying nasty things and harsh things or whatever, which, like, that is disingenuous. You have no idea what a person online is saying and for what reasons. And so to put that in a court document to say it was the Free Britney movement is a lie, frankly, because there's no way to know that. But it would not come as a surprise to me to find out that there are, accounts that are not real humans, being purchased to say certain things online in order to perpetuate a certain narrative by the conservatorship team. You have to remember, there are billions of dollars at stake here, billions, and hundreds of millions of dollars in lawyer fees alone. So we're really not talking about just somebody, a regular celebrity here. We're talking about somebody who is at the heart of a legal battle where hundreds of thousands of dollars are being spent on social media. And so I don't even actually know if these threats are real, to be honest. But all of that being said, this is a life or death issue. A lot of the commentary that I see people saying are things that Britney said herself. And I just don't think that it's necessarily responsible for us to assume that everything is just fans gone wild. And I think that's how this narrative has allowed to suppress, activism up until now.
I mean, Ellie's asking here, and, it's probably the question everybody's wondering, do you think that Britney's going to win? Is this conservatorship going to be lifted, or at the very least is our dad going to be taken out of it? What's next in the hearing? What's to come?
So I'm hearing kind of two different questions. Do I think that the conservatorship is going to be lifted? Do I think it will be ended? Without a doubt in my mind. The conservatorship is kind of dead in the water. What is next may not be exactly that. I think what is next will probably be a petition to terminate Jamie Spears as the conservator of both the person and the estate. I heard in court on Wednesday, Britney's attorney did ask Jamie to voluntarily resign. And that was a smart move on the attorney's part because I think it would save a lot of time and money. Jamie, through his lawyer, Vivian Lee Thoreen at Holland and Knight in LA, refused. And she said, it's not fair or not appropriate. That's what she said. It's not appropriate for Jamie to resign. And what Jamie would like to happen is basically a trial where they would put Britney on the stand and try to make her seem like she lied in order for Jamie to redeem his reputation. There are a lot of people who believe what Britney said in her testimony, myself included. And I think Jamie and his lawyer would like to use Britney's money to clear Jamie's reputation. It does seem like that is where they're going to go. Now, the question remains whether the court is going to entertain such a fool's errand, because at the end of the day, it doesn't actually matter if Britney's lying. Britney's attorney has actually said this. The heart of the case and the only question that matters is what's in Britney's best interest. And he said it's not in Britney's best interest to put her on the stand and depose her and make her look like a liar. It doesn't matter if Britney's mistaken in her belief. And that is what Jamie's lawyer said, that Britney was mistaken, Britney was incorrect, Britney misremembered things, maybe someone told her the wrong thing. And all that's cute and fine, and maybe it's true, but it doesn't matter. What matters is Britney's best interest. Britney has said she doesn't want her dad in control of her body, her life, or her money. And I think the judge is probably going to just go with that instead of making her have a whole trial. But it could still take months, Vicki. This could take a long time.
Yeah, this could still be a long road, like you say, but I think it's very interesting now. It's got a whole lot more interesting that we're finally hearing kind of both sides of it and not just rumors and things like that. But thank you so much again for joining us and explaining it and talking through it. Just before we go, I do have to apologise to anyone who was watching who might have seen a naughty word in Britney's post. I'm very sorry, but it'll go in my blooper reel, so that's okay.
Yeah, and the thing is, too, just for people who may be upset by that, I understand that why you would be, but again, this is a matter of life and death, and Britney has truly been fighting for her life and her children, and this is their money and their inheritance. And I would encourage you to just, when you see these outrageous and salacious headlines that say Britney is angry and firing off, just kind of think about how you would feel if everything you've ever worked for, including your children, were taken away from you and no one has really helped you for a long time, and the courts have failed you and the police have failed you and your family has failed you. I think that her indignation is justified. And I agree. We shouldn't show, curse words and bad words and things on without warning. But I would encourage people to just remember, this is really something it's not drama. It's not just gossip and it's not just entertainment and tabloids. Like, this is someone's life and this is their family and their children. And, I encourage everyone to try and have a little empathy about that. Absolutely.
Like you say, this is serious. It's not a soap, it's not a TV show. Like, this is Britney's real life. So if we can forgive her anything, it's a couple of little swear words, isn't it?
Yes, indeed. I would agree. That's my opinion. You can disagree.
I agree. But again, BJ, just thank you so much. And
of course, we should make this into an ongoing thing here. I see that there's so much going to happen soon.
There's so much going to happen. So let's come back again in a little while and talk about everything that's happened since, because it's just, hopefully, everybody gets what they want, and that's all you can hope for, that Britney's happy at the end of it, and
hopefully everyone gets what they deserve, not
one. The right word. Right, well, thank you so much for your time, and thank you for watching, everybody.
Of course, thank you.